Okay, all right.
So wait, 3 weeks into the show, it's not like we're gonna go around here. But yeah, I mean,
some of us don't have the memory that you have. Okay, I forget things.
I'm like an elephant. Call myself.
That's my elephant.
That's your elephant, is it? Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a pretty tricky start. DRS and Loops. GODSENT went out 16th again. This time they were on, obviously, the hill. You know, it's a standard position for them. And you said it's like, oh, this is a good circle for GODSENT. And then...
Because they always play that in EMEA League. Like, they always play that mountain. I'm like, well, they're used to it. They, you know,
but they could get away with it in EMEA League.
Yeah, and now they can't anymore.
Yeah. And actually, Konina Power went early as well.
Yeah, yeah, they did.
And they're obviously a Milta team, so this is kind of in their backyard. But... yeah, it was tricky. I mean, the fact is that hill is a magnet for all the teams that are dropping in the north. That is generally the spot where they're going to stop, scout up, have a look. If there's a team there, well, we're having a fight.
Well, you remember we talked about Power AAA being 8th place in the overall standings, right? And Futbolists were starting to close that distance.
Yeah.
Well, hey, they just got an extra points added to their tally. They're making it even harder for Futbolists to approach that first page.
It was like 20 points, so now it'll be 40 plus.
Yeah.
And it's actually the same at the top. The top will have now, Bigetron will now be like 45 points clear of 4 AM.
This is the push, yeah. That's the weird one. I think Luxy was in the back. What are you guys doing over here? Like, you guys sure you want to take that?
He was trying to eat, man. He was trying to eat. He's like, wait, hold on. I'm trying to eat my noodles.
So, I mean, the theory was, Luxy's obviously holding RRQ down, so he's trying to be the anchor man, and then they send the 3. And like Dave said, I think you'd probably
stance it out.
You'd maybe send Microboy over in the car, just the 1 in the US, and then 2.
So 2,000 damage out of 3,000 from 2 players. I'm not that surprised because that's easy shots from him back up there overall. But like mainly talking about RRQ Athena here, you know, Ernie and G9, they started because Pubgm in that game.
Exactly, they're not even there on the front page.
Early. They're not even on top 8. And
had his noodles today. If you guys saw the Instagram, he finally got his 28-8.
Double nade knockdown right off the bat. That made things so much easier to finish that fight with Abrupt Slayers. But GODSENT, team that unfortunately did go out. No, pretty early on in that game actually, because they were going through the coastline and they had like a weird rotate overall. I was not sure exactly what was happening with them. And,
well, they tried to follow the deep coastline, but the problem is because Bigetron pushed down from Winery, they just stopped them dead in their tracks. And obviously Bigetron made this nice move in. Oh, this nade.
That's the molly, yeah.
The molly goes in and it's like, oh no, oh no,
oh no, jump out, please, quick. There you go. This is fine. This is not fine. Axa tried his best, but and it did work out really good for Konina Power. And they got like a bunch of really good frags going their way overall. But it was not going to be enough in the long scheme of things because that circle, once again, it was such a hard circle to deal with. Team was struggling to find positions. Navi got taken out so quickly in that game, like drastically quickly. So really unfortunate. But then these older teams were fighting in the water, trying their best to make it on through. But it was going to be a hard one eventually, D-Man.
I mean, it goes back to like what I said. It's like when you've got to recognize, obviously, even the teams that play Edge, you've got to recognize when it is a circle like this, you can't play Edge. You have to kind of get as center as you can because you know it's such a short landmass and everybody's sort of bunched. It's not like you can have this big wild rotate and go around and come in from the south because there is no south unless you're in a boat, which nobody really does in Vikendi these days.
Yeah.
So it's one of those where the IGL needs to make that early call. By the way, that nade on DS. We got, yeah.
Well, I mean, like, let's just keep in mind, Bigetron had 8.
The side of Bigetron, they're going to go to a position to fight Loops because no one drops next to Loops and no one's going to third party that fight. It was like, that makes sense. But the circle is down south.
Yeah. What, Bigetron or?
SECRETUHIGH.
I was going to say, actually Bigetron Red.
When the 2 players got down towards the house, they actually had some like pinpoint accurate nades onto the members of Alpha 7, wiped them out, and add 2 more kills to the tally.
I think most of the damage of RRYZEN in that game was like purely from grenades.
Well, as Blink said, it's like he's got a bazooka. He doesn't have grenades in his hand. He's just shooting rockets at him.
Like, it was so well done, and like they're like, wait, grenades nerf? What is that? I do not know. No. I'm just going to get them right on top of you and absolutely obliterate the competition. Overall, it was a great play from them in this game all around the board. But like also we've got to say this circle was not a great fun. It went southwest, it went over to the Rocky Mountains. It is not a playable option, it's not a playable area. It was hard for a lot of these teams, but we had some fights that were like
crazy fights.
I mean, Ice got away with like 1 hit point
like 5
HP to take down DRS. Yeah, it was a horrible circle. There's no doubt. Obviously, we just had Vikendi where the water in. This is the equivalent. This is the most water you get in Miramar, except it's not water. It's a big sheer cliff face that you cannot pass. So there's no way to swim in it, get in it, which is why we saw so many teams almost trying to hug the far western wall, knowing that the backs are clear and they can push through. But Bigetron played it so well from this hill. I mean, we were talking like, well, they're down to 2. Okay, they're probably going to fall out. But no, they just keep surviving. They're so so good at just surviving these situations and getting kills while they do it.
I got flashbacks to Malaysia, the PMCO fall finals, where Bigetron, they lost Microboy and Ryzen early, and it was Zuxi and Lux as a 2-man squad to go on to win the game. I was getting kind of flashbacks to that. Obviously, it's a little bit of a different lineup there, but that's the thing about them, right? They're so good, even without a full squad.
When they made that cross, they got a really nice position. Come on, we got to give them, got to give
first win.
Got to give them some love.
Good.
It's their first win. GODSENT finally.
No, yeah. You're right, but
massive.
that's what we need to see out of them if they want to rise to the ranks. Them and yeah, we know they can pull off big wins. But you can see here our top players Ryzen first plays 1,000 damage.
Navi tried to do, and then the Loops had a good idea, a good initiative, but it was not rewarded because the blue is just so hard in these games to deal with.
Yeah, and from the blue, they're like the biggest issue with Sanhok is you've got this mindset that when you're playing Erangel or Miramar, Vikendi, you know, you've got your vehicles and okay, the blue's coming right, okay, we can reposition. Well, and then they come into Sanhok and you're not using vehicles, you're not relying on it, so you've got to be thinking further ahead because you can't just react to what happens with the circle. You need to be thinking ahead of like, okay, I need to be in the best position where I can move to the best position. But the problem is, when you're trying to do it on Sanhok, you know, there's so many of these little hills, crevices, rocks. You could suddenly run into a team without, you know, you can scout as best you can. But as you saw, there's so many little ditch and crevices, even by roadsides, that suddenly there's a team there.
One of the most important skills when you're playing on Sanhok that I think a lot of people maybe forget about is reading circles properly.
Yeah.
Like, seeing how the circle was happening right then, and also the plane path. It was a southern plane path. You can expect a lot more teams, an influx of teams coming from the south, and teams that tried to enter from the northern side, you know, like especially Klas. I mean, it is their usual rotation, but they were actually rewarded in really big ways because they read that circle properly, because you tend to always have like these big circles as like, you know, a lot of teams on the outskirts, and if you do not read those circles properly, you're going to be having a real hard time.
I mean, it's Power AAA as well, right? Because they come from Tapmok, so they both almost come down, shadowing each other as they come down from the north. So both in similar situations. We saw DA, obviously, this is where he manages to secure himself the 3 kills because Abrupt Slayers instantly go down to Power AAA. So really nice play. Considering they were down to 2 in that compound, you know, a 4v2 when you get them pushed can be really risky. Anyone just peeks a little bit too much, like Salim did, instant knock, and they're just going to pour on you. So he did very well from that situation to get
15 points because they were super far behind Futbolist initially, but they're trying to catch Nova.
Second page of this one, and of course, you know, DRS, they had a pretty good push on the northern side in terms of fragging power. I thought it was pretty well executed, but it's
of wetness, I think. Anyways, do the do moments. We're starting off Bigetron right off the bat here, going up against Konina Power. Really good way to end the game, or the day, though. I'm really happy with that finish, to be honest.
It's a wild finish. I don't think, I mean, I was about to say, I don't think any team's happy with it, but obviously Alpha 7 are delighted with it. But anyone that, you know, took that gamble, all teams will always say it's a lot harder to get to the north than to be in the south. So, which is why, you know, obviously why you got to think, okay, who would have committed to it? But at the time when it shrank and shifted, the only team that could possibly have done anything was DA, because they were in Sunken City, but they had no vehicles there. So they would have had to have gone over into the blue, deep around, and there was no way they could do it. So they instead chose to say, you know what, we're going to stick on the coastline and we're going to shoot as many people as we can because we know we'll never make it.
Just put the car in the water and stay there, which is what most teams are trying to do. There's the play. Like, it happens so often. It reminds me of like EMEA League at one point. There was a player that was in the car and just naded a team on the coastal line and got a squad wipe from that.
Is it? Oh, we didn't get it. We didn't get G9.
How dare you abandon your ship?
We didn't get G9 getting decimated.
There you go.
There you go. Hops out the car. Easy.
That's the first time I've ever seen that happen. Like, I didn't even know you could actually spot players from that angle. And then he just went for the flush also. And after they decided to make it on foot, that nade from Navy though, that was great.
So perfectly cooked.
Look at that. That you could, like, that is literally perfection going into this one. And of course, Alpha 7, like, we got the man advantage. We know where the last players remaining. We're gonna go for the full send it push to take.
Massive day for them.
Yeah, and that's moved the goal line because they're 16th place.
Right.
So everybody now sending in the river boys. That's just, yeah, they tried. And that's why you can see, obviously, anyone that was sort of caught.
The quote-unquote Western domination kind of tanked in game 1, but it came back at the end.
It kind of tanked all day. We put the big curve.
20 points behind their chasers, not quite there yet, John. Hey man, it's 100 more Spartans than they needed. Yeah.
Have none, Jason.
Hey, sorry. Hey, I see one on the table. Bodyguards aren't looking. Taking a look at the second page now, we can see Alpha 7. Well, they still have fallen off the first, not playing in the Super Week, and they have fallen off the top 16.